Hello everyone. How are you doing? Today channel, Dan Sreyoun is going to present you about the United States of America. The United States of America, USA or USA, commonly known as the United States, US or US, or America, is a country primarily located in North America. It consists of 50 states, a federal district, 5 major unincorporated territories, 326 Indian reservations, and some minor possessions. At 3.8 million square miles, 9.8 million square kilometers, it is the world's third or fourth largest country by total area. With a population of more than 331 million people, it is the third most populous country in the world. The national capital is Washington, D.C., and the most populous city is New York City. Paleo-Indians migrated from Siberia to the North American mainland at least 12,000 years ago, and European colonization began in the 16th century. The United States emerged from the 13 British colonies established along the East Coast. Disputes over taxation and political representation with Great Britain led to the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, which established independence. In the late 18th century, the U.S. began expanding across North America, gradually obtaining new territories, sometimes through war, frequently displacing Native Americans, and admitting new states. By 1848, the United States spanned the continent. Slavery was legal in the southern United States until the second half of the 19th century, when the American Civil War led to its abolition. The Spanish-American War and World War I established the U.S. as a world power, a status confirmed by the outcome of World War II. During the Cold War, the United States fought the Korean War and the Vietnam War, but avoided direct military conflict with the Soviet Union. The two superpowers competed in the space race, culminating in the 1969 spaceflight that first landed humans on the Moon. The Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991 ended the Cold War, leaving the United States as the world's sole superpower. The United States is a federal republic and a representative democracy with 3 separate branches of government, including a bicameral legislature. It is a founding member of the United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, Organization of American States, NATO, and other international organizations. It is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Considered a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities, its population has been profoundly shaped by centuries of immigration. The U.S. ranks high in international measures of economic freedom, reduced levels of perceived corruption, happiness, quality of life, education, and human rights. However, the country has received criticism concerning inequality related to race, wealth and income, the use of capital punishment, high incarceration rates, and lack of universal health care. The United States is a highly developed country, and continuously ranks high in measures of socio-economic performance. It accounts for approximately a quarter of global GDP and is the world's largest economy by GDP at market exchange rates. By value, the United States is the world's largest importer and the second largest exporter of goods. Although its population is only 4.2% of the world total, it holds 29.4% of the total wealth in the world, the largest share held by any country. Making up more than a third of global military spending, it is the foremost military power in the world and is a leading political, cultural, and scientific force internationally. The 48 contiguous states in the District of Columbia occupy a combined area of 3,119,885 square miles, 8,080,470 square kilometers. Of this area, 2,959,064 square miles, 7,663,940 square kilometers, is contiguous land, composing 83.65% of total U.S. land area. Hawaii, occupying an archipelago in the Central Pacific, southwest of North America, is 10,931 square miles, 28,311 square kilometers in area. The 5 populated but unincorporated territories of Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and U.S. Virgin Islands together cover 9,185 square miles, 23,789 square kilometers. Measured by only land area, the United States is third in size behind Russia and China, just ahead of Canada. The United States is the world's third or fourth largest nation by total area, land and water, ranking behind Russia and Canada and nearly equal to China. The ranking varies depending on how two territories disputed by China and India are counted, and how the total size of the United States is measured. The coastal plain of the Atlantic seaboard gives way further inland to deciduous forests and the rolling hills of the Piedmont. The Appalachian Mountains divide the eastern seaboard from the Great Lakes and the grasslands of the Midwest. The Mississippi-Missouri River, the world's fourth longest river system, runs mainly north-south through the heart of the country. The flat, fertile prairie of the Great Plains stretches to the west, interrupted by a highland region in the southeast. The Rocky Mountains, west of the Great Plains, extend north to south across the country, peaking around 14,000 feet, 4,300 meters, in Colorado. Farther west are the Rocky Great Basin and deserts such as the Chihuahua and Mojave. The Sierra Nevada and Cascade mountain ranges run close to the Pacific coast, both ranges reaching altitudes higher than 14,000 feet, 4,300 meters. The lowest and highest points in the contiguous United States are in the state of California, 184, and only about 84 miles, 135 kilometers, apart. At an elevation of 20,310 feet, 6,190.5 meters, Alaska's Denali is the highest peak in the country and in North America. Active volcanoes are common throughout Alaska's Alexander and Aleutian Islands, and Hawaii consists of volcanic islands. The supervolcano underlying Yellowstone National Park in the Rockies is the continent's largest volcanic feature. The United States, with its large size and geographic variety, includes most climate types. To the east of the 100th meridian, the climate ranges from humid continental in the north to humid subtropical in the south. 188. The Great Plains west of the 100th meridian are semi-arid. Much of the western mountains have an alpine climate. The climate is arid in the Great Basin, desert in the southwest, Mediterranean in coastal California, and oceanic in coastal Oregon and Washington and southern Alaska. Most of Alaska is subarctic or polar. Hawaii and the southern tip of Florida are tropical, as well as its territories in the Caribbean and the Pacific. States bordering the Gulf of Mexico are prone to hurricanes, and most of the world's tornadoes occur in the country, mainly in Tornado Alley areas in the Midwest and South. Overall, the United States receives more high-impact extreme weather incidents than any other country in the world. The U.S. is one of 17 megadiverse countries containing a large amount of endemic species. About 17,000 species of vascular plants occur in the contiguous United States and Alaska, and more than 1,800 species of flowering plants are found in Hawaii, few of which occur on the mainland. The United States is home to 428 mammal species, 784 bird species, 311 reptile species, and 295 amphibian species, as well as about 91,000 insect species. There are 62 national parks and hundreds of other federally managed parks, forests, and wilderness areas. Altogether, the government owns about 28% of the country's land area, 197, mostly in the western states. Most of this land is protected, though some is leased for oil and gas drilling, mining, logging, or cattle ranching, and about 0.86% is used for military purposes. Include debates on oil and nuclear energy, dealing with air and water pollution, the economic costs of protecting wildlife, logging and deforestation, and climate change. The most prominent environmental agency is the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, created by presidential order in 1970. The idea of wilderness has shaped the management of public land since 1964, with the Wilderness Act. The Endangered Species Act of 1973 is intended to protect threatened and endangered species in their habitats, which are monitored by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. The United States is ranked 24th among nations in the Environmental Performance Index. The country joined the Paris Agreement on Climate Change in 2016 and has many other environmental commitments. It left the Paris Agreement in 2020 and rejoined it in 2021. The U.S. Census Bureau reported 331,449,281 residents as of April 1, 2020. This figure, like most official data for the United States as a whole, excludes the 5 unincorporated territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, and the Northern Mariana Islands and minor island possessions. According to the Bureau's U.S. population clock, on January 28, 2021, the U.S. population had a net gain of 1 person every 100 seconds, or about 864 people per day. The United States is the third most populous nation in the world, after China and India. In 2020, the median age of the United States population was 38.5 years. In 2018, there were almost 90 million immigrants and U.S.-born children of immigrants in the United States, accounting for 28% of the overall U.S. population. The United States has a diverse population. 37 ancestry groups have more than 1 million members. White Americans of European ancestry, mostly German, Irish, English, Italian, Polish and French, including white Hispanic and Latino Americans from Latin America, form the largest racial group, at 73.1% of the population. African Americans constitute the nation's largest racial minority and third largest ancestry group, and are around 13% of the total U.S. population. Asian Americans are the country's second largest racial minority. The 3 largest Asian ethnic groups are Chinese, Filipino, and Indian. In 2017, out of the U.S. foreign-born population, some 45%, 20.7 million, were naturalized citizens, 27%, 12.3 million, were lawful permanent residents, 6%, 2.2 million, were temporary lawful residents, and 23%, 10.5 million, were unauthorized immigrants. Among current living immigrants to the U.S., the top 5 countries of birth are Mexico, China, India, the Philippines and El Salvador. Until 2017, the United States led the world in refugee resettlement for decades, admitting more refugees than the rest of the world combined. About 82% of Americans live in urban areas, including suburbs. About half of those reside in cities with populations over 50,000. 221 in 2008. 273 incorporated municipalities had populations over 100,000, 9 cities had more than 1 million residents, and 4 cities had over 2 million, namely New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Houston. Many U.S. metropolitan populations are growing rapidly, particularly in the South and West. As of 2018, 52% of Americans age 15 and over were married, 6% were widowed, 10% were divorced, and 32% had never been married. As of 2020, the total fertility rate stood at 1.64 children per woman. In 2013, the average age at first birth was 26, and 41% of births were to unmarried women. In 2019, the U.S. had the world's highest rate of children living in single-parent households. English, specifically, American English, is the de facto national language of the United States. Although there is no official language at the federal level, some laws, such as U.S. naturalization requirements, standardize English, and most states have declared English as the official language. 228, 3 states and 4 U.S. territories have recognized local or indigenous languages in addition to English, including Hawaii, Hawaiian, Alaska, 20 native languages, South Dakota, Sioux, 231, American Samoa, Samoan, Puerto Rico, Spanish, Guam, Chamorro, and the Northern Mariana Islands, Carolinian and Chamorro. In Puerto Rico, Spanish is more widely spoken than English. According to the American Community Survey, in 2010 some 229 million people out of the total U.S. population of 308 million spoke only English at home. More than 37 million spoke Spanish at home, making it the second most commonly used language in the United States. Other languages spoken at home by 1 million people or more include Chinese, 2.8 million, Tagalog, 1.6 million, Vietnamese, 1.4 million, French, 1.3 million, Korean, 1.1 million, and German, 1 million. The most widely taught foreign languages in the United States, in terms of enrollment numbers from kindergarten through university undergraduate education, are Spanish, around 7.2 million students, French, 1.5 million, and German, 500,000. Other commonly taught languages include Latin, Japanese, American Sign Language, Italian, and Chinese. 18% of all Americans claim to speak both English and another language. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees the free exercise of religion and forbids Congress from passing laws respecting its establishment. The United States has the world's largest Christian population. In a 2014 survey, 70.6% of adults in the United States identify themselves as Christians. Protestants accounted for 46.5%, while Roman Catholics, at 20.8%, formed the largest single Christian group. In 2014, 5.9% of the U.S. adult population claimed a non-Christian religion. These include Judaism 1.9%, Islam 0.9%, Hinduism 0.7%, and Buddhism 0.7%. The survey also reported that 22.8% of Americans describe themselves as agnostic, atheist, or simply having no religion, up from 8.2% in 1990. Membership in a house of worship fell from 70% in 1999 to 47% in 2020, much of the decline related to the number of Americans expressing no religious preference. However, membership also fell among those who identified with a specific religious group. Protestantism is the largest Christian religious grouping in the United States, accounting for almost half of all Americans. Baptists collectively form the largest branch of Protestantism at 15.4%, and the Southern Baptist Convention is the largest individual Protestant denomination at 5.3% of the U.S. population. Apart from Baptists, other Protestant categories include non-denominational Protestants, Methodists, Pentecostals, unspecified Protestants, Lutherans, Presbyterians, Congregationalists, other Reformed, Episcopalians/Anglicans, Quakers, Adventists, Holiness, Christian Fundamentalists, Anabaptists, Pietists, and multiple others. The Bible Belt is an informal term for a region in the southern United States in which socially conservative evangelical Protestantism is a significant part of the culture, and Christian church attendance across the denominations is generally higher than the nation's average. By contrast, religion plays the least important role in New England and in the western United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) reported that the United States had an average life expectancy at birth of 78.8 years in 2019, 76.3 years for men, and 81.4 years for women, up 0.1 year from 2018. This was the second year that overall U.S. life expectancy rose slightly after 3 years of overall declines that followed decades of continuous improvement. The recent decline, primarily among the age group 25 to 64, was largely due to record highs in the drug overdose and suicide rates. The country still has one of the highest suicide rates among wealthy countries. From 1999 to 2019, more than 770,000 Americans died from drug overdoses. Life expectancy was highest among Asians and Hispanics and lowest among blacks. Increasing obesity in the United States and improvements in health and longevity outside the U.S. contributed to lowering the country's rank in life expectancy from 11th in the world in 1987 to 42nd in 2007. In 2017, the United States had the lowest life expectancy among Japan, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and 7 nations in Western Europe. Obesity rates have more than doubled in the last 30 years and are the highest in the industrialized world. Approximately 1/3 of the adult population is obese, and an additional third is overweight. Obesity-related type 2 diabetes is considered epidemic by healthcare professionals. In 2010, coronary artery disease, lung cancer, stroke, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and traffic accidents caused the most years of life lost in the U.S. Low back pain, depression, musculoskeletal disorders, neck pain, and anxiety caused the most years lost to disability. The most harmful risk factors were poor diet, tobacco smoking, obesity, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, physical inactivity, and alcohol use. Alzheimer's disease, substance use disorders, kidney disease, cancer, and falls caused the most additional years of life lost over their age-adjusted 1990 per capita rates. U.S. teenage pregnancy and abortion rates are substantially higher than in other Western nations, especially among blacks and Hispanics. Government-funded healthcare coverage for the poor, Medicaid, established in 1965, and for those aged 65 and older, Medicare, begun in 1966, is available to Americans who meet the program's income or age qualifications. Nonetheless, the United States remains the only developed nation without a system of universal health care. In 2017, 12.2% of the population did not carry health insurance. The subject of uninsured and underinsured Americans is a major political issue. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, passed in early 2010 and informally known as Obamacare, roughly half the uninsured share of the population. The bill and its ultimate effect are still issues of controversy in the United States. The U.S. healthcare system far outspends that of any other nation, measured both in per capita spending and as a percentage of GDP. However, the U.S. is a global leader in medical innovation. American public education is operated by state and local governments and regulated by the United States Department of Education through restrictions on federal grants. In most states, children are required to attend school from the age of 6 or 7, generally, kindergarten or first grade, until they turn 18, generally bringing them through 12th grade, the end of high school. Some states allow students to leave school at 16 or 17. About 12% of children are enrolled in parochial or non-sectarian private schools. Just over 2% of children are homeschooled. The U.S. spends more on education per student than any nation in the world, spending an average of $12,794 per year on public elementary and secondary school students in the 2016 to 2017 school year. Some 80% of U.S. college students attend public universities. Of Americans 25 and older, 84.6% graduated from high school, 52.6% attended some college, 27.2% earned a bachelor's degree, and 9.6% earned graduate degrees. The basic literacy rate is approximately 99%. The United Nations assigns the United States an education index of 0.97, tying it for 12th in the world. The United States has many private and public institutions of higher education. The majority of the world's top universities, as listed by various ranking organizations, are in the U.S. There are also local community colleges with generally more open admission policies, shorter academic programs, and lower tuition. In 2018, U21, a network of research-intensive universities, ranked the United States first in the world for breadth and quality of higher education, and 15th when GDP was a factor. As for public expenditures on higher education, the U.S. trails some other OECD Organization for Cooperation and Development nations but spends more per student than the OECD average, and more than all nations in combined public and private spending. As of 2018, student loan debt exceeded $1.5 trillion. The United States is a federal republic of 50 states, a federal district, 5 territories and several uninhabited island possessions. It is the world's oldest surviving federation. It is a federal republic and a representative democracy in which majority rule is tempered by minority rights protected by law. The U.S. ranked 25th on the Democracy Index in 2018. On Transparency International's 2019 Corruption Perceptions Index, its public sector position deteriorated from a score of 76 in 2015 to 69 in 2019. In the American Federalist system, citizens are usually subject to 3 levels of government: federal, state, and local. The local government's duties are commonly split between county and municipal governments. In almost all cases, executive and legislative officials are elected by a plurality vote of citizens by district. The government is regulated by a system of checks and balances defined by the U.S. Constitution, which serves as the country's supreme legal document. The original text of the Constitution establishes the structure and responsibilities of the federal government and its relationship with the individual states. Article 1 protects the right to the writ of habeas corpus. The Constitution has been amended 27 times. The first 10 amendments, which make up the Bill of Rights, and the 14th Amendment form the central basis of Americans' individual rights. All laws and governmental procedures are subject to judicial review, and any law ruled by the courts to be in violation of the Constitution is voided. The principle of judicial review, not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, was established by the Supreme Court in Marbury v. Madison, 1803, in a decision handed down by Chief Justice John Marshall. The federal government comprises three branches: legislative, the bicameral Congress, made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives, makes federal law, declares war, approves treaties, has the power of the purse, and has the power of impeachment, by which it can remove sitting members of the government. Executive, the President is the commander-in-chief of the military, can veto legislative bills before they become law, subject to congressional override, and appoints the members of the cabinet, subject to Senate approval, and other officers, who administer and enforce federal laws and policies. Judicial, the Supreme Court and lower federal courts, whose judges are appointed by the President with Senate approval, interpret laws and overturn those they find unconstitutional. The House of Representatives has 435 voting members, each representing a congressional district for a 2-year term. House seats are apportioned among the states by population. Each state then draws single-member districts to conform with the census apportionment. The District of Columbia and the 5 major U.S. territories each have 1 member of Congress. These members are not allowed to vote. The Senate has 100 members, with each state having 2 senators, elected at large to 6-year terms. 1/3 of Senate seats are up for election every 2 years. The District of Columbia and the 5 major U.S. territories do not have senators. The President serves a 4-year term and may be elected to the office no more than twice. The President is not elected by direct vote, but by an indirect electoral college system in which the determining votes are apportioned to the states and the District of Columbia. The Supreme Court, led by the Chief Justice of the United States, has 9 members, who serve for life. The 50 states are the principal political divisions in the country. Each state holds jurisdiction over a defined geographic territory, where it shares sovereignty with the federal government. They are subdivided into counties or county equivalents, and further divided into municipalities. The District of Columbia is a federal district that contains the capital of the United States, the city of Washington. The states in the District of Columbia choose the President of the United States. Each state has presidential electors equal to the number of their representatives and senators in Congress. The District of Columbia has 3 because of the 23rd Amendment. Territories of the United States such as Puerto Rico do not have presidential electors, and so people in those territories cannot vote for the president. The United States also observes tribal sovereignty of the American Indian nations to a limited degree, as it does with the state's sovereignty. American Indians are U.S. citizens and tribal lands are subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. Congress and the federal courts. Like the states, they have a great deal of autonomy, but also like the states, tribes are not allowed to make war, engage in their own foreign relations, or print and issue currency. Citizenship is granted at birth in all states, the District of Columbia, and all major U.S. territories except American Samoa. That's all about the United States. Thank you so much for watching channel, Dan Sreyoun. Please subscribe, like and share to channel, Dan Sreyoun in order to get more videos. Thank you.